This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are we doing today? It's Friday, and thanks so much for watching the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, Alabama Crimson Tide on SI, powered by Bama Central. That's the newest name for us right here at Bama Central at BamaCentral.com. We've done a little rebranding on our website. We are the Alabama Crimson Tide on SI, powered by Bama Central, and you can still find us right there at BamaCentral.com. I am Joe Gaither. You are the viewer, the listener, and we appreciate everybody watching us on the Bama Central YouTube channel, watching us out at Joe Gaither 6 on any of my social media machines, and listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. You can go ahead and download, rate, review, subscribe to the show. You can send the show to a friend. We want to thank everybody who supported us through the week, really supported us through the week over in Dallas at SEC Media Days. Yesterday was a driving day, so that's why I didn't come to you live yesterday. We got back into Tuscaloosa about 7 or so last night. And we are very, very thankful for everybody sticking with us and following our coverage of SEC Media Days on BamaCentral.com, on Mizzou Central, Missouri Tigers on SI, and Mississippi State on SI as well. So we got to hang out for a couple of days in Dallas in the Omni Hotel. And on Wednesday, we played an episode where we interviewed head coach Kalen DeBoer. It was a very short episode. We wanted to just focus on that interview with Kalen DeBoer. We appreciate everybody for watching or listening to that interview with head coach Kalen DeBoer. And we appreciate Coach DeBoer giving us some of his time. What will be the plan today? It's Friday afternoon. We want to make this fun. We want to keep this light and short and nice and tight for you guys. So we're going to do We're going to do about three things. We're first going to play the interview that we had with Alabama safety Malachi Moore. It's going to last about 3 minutes or so, and that's going to be basically the next thing you see after we set this thing up. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We're going to talk about the SEC preseason polls and the SEC preseason teams, what Alabama player got most disrespected or was left out the most, which Alabama player deserved a spot on the all preseason SEC teams the most, or who was most disrespected. We'll play that game real quick, and then we'll talk about Kenyon Drake just a tad bit as he announces his retirement from the NFL today, and we will close it out by playing our interview with Tyler Booker. Alabama offensive lineman Tyler Booker joined us. So that's going to be the plan for the day. Before we get into it, let me tell you about the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi, Purple Turtle Roofing. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Purple Turtle Roofing is the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. They'll come out and check out your roof for free, let you know what you need and how it's doing. That's 877-787-6635. To schedule your appointment today, one of the qualified employees will come check out your roof, and they're going to make sure that you are prepared for all of life's storms. You can check them out online at www.roofturtle.com. So with all that, that's the setup. You can jump in and leave your comments at Joe Gaither 6, comment, question, query, or please feel free to complain right there on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Joe Gaither 6. With all that out of the way, let's hear our interview with Malachi Moore. Joe Gaither with BamaCentral.com right here with Malachi Moore, the senior-most member of the secondary. Malachi, how tired are you of answering the rat poison question from Coach Saban today?
I kind of expected to get it, so it's been fun, though. It's kind of fun to see him on the other end of the rat poison.
Absolutely. My biggest question for Alabama and its defense is how quickly is the defense going to be able to take the scheme and make it second nature with Cam Womack? How's that going?
It's going great. I think in the spring it was a little growing pain just to everything was so new, but I think now the emphasis has really been like honing in on the technique and making sure everybody knows our job and knows our assignment like we did in Coach Saban defense.
All right, so you made an impact on the Alabama defense as a freshman. Who is maybe the one or two freshmen that we should be watching out for this season?
Yeah, we have a lot of talented freshmen coming in from Red Morgan to Jalen Mbakwe to Xavier Brown, Zay Mincy. We have a lot of talented guys coming in, and I love the way they come in and ready to work, and it's going to be fun to see everybody compete for a spot.
All right, you got a 92 overall on your EA Sports college. Do you think that's fair?
I think this it could be a little better, but I'll take it.
Okay. Yeah. What about on the offensive side? When you are going up against these wide receivers, what does Jeremy Bernard add to this wide receiver crew that Alabama hasn't had?
I say Germ, he brings a lot of knowledge to the game. He's very crafty in the way he runs routes, and he's very knowledgeable player from looking at DB's tendencies from their stance and everything, how to attack them. I think he's going to be a great addition for us this year.
Who's the most underrated player on the EA Sports College Football Game on the Alabama roster? Who got the lowest ranking you thought, oh, that's wrong?
Lowest ranking? I'm not going to lie, I have not seen all the rankings.
Okay, great.
But I would say that they do need to up J. Mill's speed to about a 99 instead of a 91. I would say that.
All right, 2 years ago, you went up to Neyland Stadium. It didn't really work out for you. Are you looking forward to being back in Neyland Stadium to play Tennessee?
Definitely. Like you said, last time we've been in the stadium, it wasn't a fun memory. So we definitely look forward to that game as well as all the other games on our schedule.
Earlier in the room, you called yourself a pre-NIL baby. You really got things started with that Milo's deal. What was that, 2020? Yeah. How has NIL changed for you going from representing Milo Sweet Tea to other opportunities?
It's been great. Just working on my brand and things of that nature, and really being able to impact my community as well with my platform.
All right, tell us a little bit about Hewitt Trussville. I had a friend that said, tell Malachi I thought that Paul Tyson was a Heisman Trophy winner because of their pairing at Hewitt Trussville.
Yeah, Hewitt Trussville was a fun time. It's where I really started to take football serious from I think around my sophomore year, my freshman year going into my sophomore year. So, that's definitely where I grew up and where everything started. So,
Malachi, we're really looking forward to this year. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That was our time with Malachi Moore on Wednesday at SEC Media Days, and we really appreciate him joining us, and we appreciate Walt Brock for setting that up, Alabama social media coordinator, and that was a great time. Obviously, hope you can kind of gather the time was really, really tight. We were able to get these guys for just a couple of minutes because everybody wanted to talk to him, so we really appreciate that conversation with Malachi Moore, nice and quick, and hopefully maybe it'll lead to something in the future, catching back up with him. We're going to hear from Tyler Booker at the very end of the show. It's going to be very similar to what you just saw or what you just heard if you're listening to us on podcast platforms. But let's get into really two different topics for the day, and they all result in the last day or so. Yesterday, and really was confirmed today. You can read about it on Alabama Crimson Tide on SI, powered by Bama Central, BamaCentral.com. Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium was announced, was voted on and approved, and we will see it on September the 7th. That's the second week of the year, the USF game. Alabama is going to dedicate and honor Coach Saban September the 7th, Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And that sparked a lot of conversations. You can see on social media a lot of the photos and renderings, and they're going to change some of the signage, and they're going to change some of the basically some of the branding at Bryant-Denny Stadium as to reflect the change for Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And I ask you, do you like it? Do you like it? Do you think they should have done something different? Do you think they should have done something more? Really, I'll share my thoughts, and please feel free to disagree because it doesn't matter. If you disagree with me, that's great, and if you agree with me, that's great. But my thoughts are this is very nice. This is good. This is solid. My only negative thought is feels just a hair, just a tad rushed. I mean, the man only retired in January. Now, not rushed in the fact that they shouldn't have named the field after him, no, but rushed in, are we sure this is the way you want to honor Coach Saban? Because this is going to last on the field and on the facility and right around Bryant-Denny Stadium until I'll be dead. So hopefully that's many, many, many years from now, but it's going to last for a long, long time. This is a long-lasting decision. And so my only concern is, are you sure this is what you want to do? And the reason why I say that is because you see a lot of Alabama fans on social media say, oh, we need to actually name the actual stadium after him. Name it Bryant-Denny Saban Stadium. Name it Bryant Saban Stadium. Take Denny off of it. Make it just Saban Bryant Stadium. Whatever you wanted to do, you're seeing a lot of people that are saying you should have changed the actual name of the stadium to include and incorporate Nick Saban. I will just chime in. You couldn't name it. You can't take Denny's name off of it and name it Bryant Saban Stadium. And not because it doesn't sound good. And obviously, you recognize two of college football's greatest coaches to ever roam the sidelines. But because you're all familiar with BDS, Bryant-Denny Stadium, BDS. You see Bryant-Denny Stadium, BDS, as your acronym, and I just say, okay, you can't name it Bryant Saban Stadium. Take Denny off of it and just shove Saban in there, because you're going to have Tennessee fans, Auburn fans, LSU fans, and really anyone who is not cheering for the University of Alabama basically say BS Stadium. They're we're going to BS Stadium. And come on, like while the people who are familiar with the actual name, it's Bryant Saban Stadium, you're going to have all the jokes. If you name it BS Stadium, you're going to have all the negative jokes against the University of Alabama. And I think the Board of Trustees really has a twofold job. One, protect the brand that is the University of Alabama, and underneath that, Alabama football is part of that, under that umbrella. And then secondly, honoring Coach Saban in the proper way. Now, you can't take Denny's name off of it either. What about the Denny family? I mean, you can't just kind of wipe his name off the face of the stadium. Obviously, you have Denny chimes, and that's very, very important there at the university. But the biggest goal for the Board of Trustees is to minimize any harm to the brand, while also adding prestige or honoring people who have contributed to the brand, i.e. Nick Saban. And so they do this by saying, okay, we're leaving BDS, Bryant-Denny Stadium, alone, and we will name the playing field after Nick Saban, the Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And personally, I think that's perfect. It's a perfect marrying of the tradition that already has been at the University of Alabama and honoring Coach Saban for all his great contributions. I think the next step that they might consider in the future is naming one of these streets after him. 10th Avenue seems like a perfect street to name after. Saban Way, the Saban Street. And now you do have, I believe it is Saban Way downtown next to Tuscaloosa News Building that's vacant, and next to the amphitheater, and that's going to be the site of the new Knicks Kids facility. But I do think that there will be a road or a street on campus named after Nick Saban in some form or fashion. Maybe it'll be named after Miss Terry Saban in some form or fashion. Maybe Coach Saban says, no, not me, but my wife. We all know his track record of honoring his wife, and that's something we can all take from in our own lives. But I think 10th Avenue, naming it after Miss Terry, naming it after Nick Saban in some full form or fashion is probably your next and final way to kind of honor Coach Saban in his retirement. Doesn't feel too soon. I want to go back to that comment just real quick. It doesn't feel too soon that he doesn't deserve it, but you just will lock yourself in to, okay, we're naming the field after him, and that's the move. And obviously, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a very good move for the university and a very good move for the Alabama football program. But really, you just need to be sure that that's the way you want to do it. And obviously, the Board of Trustees was sure, and they approved that today. And so congratulations, Coach Saban. When we are all there on September the 7th, we will celebrate your legacy just a little bit. And obviously, you'll see USF. It's kind of ironic that will go, that ceremony will go the week that Alabama is hosting USF, because I wonder, did that game last year down in Tampa push Coach Saban a little bit more? Not 100%, but maybe pushed him one step closer to retirement last season. The rain and the performance down in Tampa, but now USF is going to be coming to Tuscaloosa, and I do think it's going to be a closer than advertised game. I think it's going to be a game where Alabama wins 38-28, and everybody's walking away talking about, oh my gosh, if Nick Saban's defense was still here, they wouldn't have scored 28 points. I think the USF is going to challenge Alabama's defense, but that's not really the point of this part of the conversation. So we celebrate Coach Saban. You can let me know in the comments what you think about Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Did the Board of Trustees, did Greg Byrne, did the power players get it right in honoring Coach Saban by naming the field after Coach Saban? You can let us know in the comments at JoeGaither6 or in the Bama Central YouTube comments right below us. We're going to go with really one more big chunk topic, and then we'll talk about Kenyon Drake, and then we'll finish it up with our short conversation with Alabama offensive lineman Tyler Booker. But the next chunk conversation really centers around the SEC preseason polls. Alabama was selected to finish third this season in the SEC. I got the honor as part of being as part of SEC Media Days filling out my preseason poll predictions. Now, you had Georgia listed as number one. They're the favorite. Heavy favorite. Georgia got how many votes? 165 first-place votes. Texas got 27. Alabama 12. Ole Miss 4. Vanderbilt 2. LSU 2. And South Carolina 1. Now, just take that right there. Bottom three. Vanderbilt 2. 2 votes to win the conference. LSU 2. Okay, they're not really a part of this part. And South Carolina 1. This should tell you all you need to know as you dive deeper into this little preseason poll. Obviously, people will pay attention to my central tab. Yeah, they'll pay attention to first team all SEC, second and third team all SEC, and we will continue the conversation by going that way. But I want to set it up by just looking at the preseason pick to win the conference. Alabama had 12 media members vote the Crimson Tide to win the SEC. 3 of these media members voted for Vanderbilt to win and South Carolina to win. That should tell you all you need to know. Do not take this poll seriously. Do not take this poll as gospel. Now, look, Georgia is the favorite. We can be honest here about that. Georgia is the favorite. Texas getting 27 first place votes. They are going to be one of the better teams in the SEC. Alabama with 12 first place votes, they're going to be one of the better teams in the SEC for sure. But it should tell you all you need to know, people's biases, people's opinions, people's, trolling perhaps. Vanderbilt gets a vote every single year. And has Vanderbilt in my lifetime ever come close to winning the conference? No. I think their last conference championship was in the 50s when I did the early preseason, early look at the opponents. I know that Vanderbilt has won conference championships, many of those in the 1900s, 1908, 9, 10, 11, 12, over 100 years ago. But Vanderbilt gets votes every single year. So that should tell you exactly what you're dealing with. Now, I saw another statistic from our friend Matt Moscona, and I was able to just talk with him this past week at SEC Media Days, where he said, okay, only 20 to 30% of the media folks that are there actually participate in this poll, actually participate in filling out the Google form. Now, I have filled it out the last 2 years because I have felt like it's a cool part of SEC Media Days. But I can totally see how it gets lost in the shuffle. Why? Because the SEC sent the email and it went into my junk file. Sorry, I got a lot of emails this past week from the SEC, and I got a lot of emails that I did read because it was procedure. This team's going up at this time, and here's going to be, the events for the evenings, and thank you, SEC, for putting on good events in Dallas. But the preseason poll went into my junk file. Okay, I was looking for it, so I was able to dig it out and fill it out myself. But just to goes to show that you're seeing all these articles today, and we've got one at BamaCentral.com. We encourage you to read it. You're seeing all these articles today about the SEC preseason poll, and the media's voting Georgia, and you got Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck. Really, Carson Beck is in the first team, and Quinn Ewers the second team. Great. There is an element of, okay, this is kind of a rough draft, a little bit of a guide. It'll give you a little bit of a preview for the season, but it's not gospel. It's not set in stone. It doesn't matter for anything at all. Nobody gets a half game lead because they were the SEC preseason poll favorites, right? So it doesn't really matter. But to that end, Alabama finished third. Alabama was finished third as far as champions. Basically, the way the poll went is they gave you an opportunity to pick your champion. Great. And then they made you select all 16 teams, 1 through 16. And you can go back and look at it. And obviously, Georgia, again, in that 16 team kind of setting, if it was selected first, Texas second. The gap between Alabama and Texas was a lot closer for 2 and 3, and you had a pretty close gap, honestly, with Ole Miss at 4. And then you have the drop-off. LSU was picked 5th, Missouri 6th, Tennessee 7th, Oklahoma. They're kind of all in this little window. So you've got all these guys within a 300-point valuation from 5th to 8th. And then another drop-off to Texas A&M at 9th. They dropped 400 points down. Texas A&M at 9th, and then another 300-point drop-off to the back end of the conference. And the back end of the conference, I think you're going to see some disgusting football this year. Now, maybe not from Auburn and Kentucky, but Auburn at 10, Kentucky at 11, but down 12 through 16, Florida, South Carolina, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt coming up last with only 293 points. So that tells you 2 jokers, 2 maybe Vanderbilt riders. I don't know. It's an anonymous poll, but 2 jokers selected Vanderbilt to finish first. Everyone else who finished this poll selected Vanderbilt last or next to last. 293 points for Vanderbilt coming in the rear. And so, again, does it matter? No. Does it serve as an interesting kind of get you ready for football season poll? Yeah, and that's what it's for. And so it's a lot of fun. We will remind you, Chris Lowe from ESPN tweeted out that 9 times since 1992 has the media picked the correct SEC champion. That's a terrible rate. That's a terrible hit rate. That's 9 out of the last 33 years, 27%. 27% hit rate. So, Georgia, are you the favorite? Absolutely, you're the favorite. But does that mean that they're going to end up walking away, becoming the SEC champion? It's no guarantee, and their schedule is very, very difficult. And so I think that that's going to play as a major factor as well. Going to Alabama, going to Texas, I think they will. Obviously, Kirby Smart's going to want to go 2-0, but the split is much more likely. I think it's going to be a real challenge for Georgia. You can let me know who you think will win the SEC right in the comments at Joe Gaither 6. We invite you to do that, and you can jump in and talk about if you think that Georgia was the rightful SEC preseason favorite, and if Texas and the new Texas media was just propping up the Burnt Orange, giving them the second spot. But Alabama comes in at number 3. Number 3 picks for the champion. Number 3 for the preseason 1 through 16. So we'll see if the Crimson Tide can do any better than third. We heard Coach Kalen DeBoer on Wednesday with us, basically saying, he'll use that and use Coach Saban's prediction as a little bit of motivation for the team. Now, Alabama, let's talk about the individual players. Then we'll round it out with Kenyon Drake, and we'll finish with Tyler Booker. The individual players, Alabama had 16 players selected for first, second, and third team all SEC. This is offense, defense, and special teams. And look, 16 16 representatives ties the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia also had 16. Texas had 13. So you've got the three most talented teams in the conference all represented right there. Maybe a little bit of media bias at play with the three of the biggest brands. Sorry, Oklahoma, you're right there in there as far as big brands as well, but didn't come up. I didn't even count the Oklahoma guys, honestly, and I should have. But you have Texas and you have Georgia and Alabama both tied for the most representatives on these preseason poll lists with 16 players. I want to talk about who was jobbed. I've got jobbed written down here. You can say screwed. You can say disrespected, whatever you want to say. And again, it doesn't matter, because what does matter when you go to a guy's Wikipedia page, when you go to a guy's resume, it doesn't say preseason all SEC, preseason second team all SEC. No, it says what they did at the end of the year. This is just predictions. This is just to get you excited. This is just to let you know that football is in the air. So, is it real disrespect? Maybe, and maybe some of these guys can use this as extra motivation. But I wrote down I wrote down 4 different little notes right here under who was most jobbed on the Alabama team. And you can obviously jump in and let me know. But Jalen Milroe is my first one listed on the third team. I'll just let you know I voted for him on my second team. I had Quinn Ewers 1, Jalen Milroe 2. And obviously people say, Joe, why'd you do that? Carson Beck. And yes, Carson Beck. Carson Beck was selected as the first team all SEC quarterback. When you were second, Jalen Milroe third. It all goes into our conversations with Kalen DeBoer. It all goes into skill sets, the way that DeBoer has utilized skill sets in the past. There was a lot of Michael Penix discussion as far as throwing the football deep down the field, and I think that Jalen Milroe is going to be very, very effective at that. You heard Malachi Moore say, his speed, Jalen Milroe's speed, is not at 91 per EA Sports. It should be at 98, 99. Now, maybe he just has his teammates back there, but he's got that dual threat ability that's going to be very, very, very difficult to stop in his second year. And while last year certainly had its struggles, it was definitely like going to the dentist almost every single week watching the Alabama offense. Disjointed, but most of the time the tooth came out. Most of the time you got the job done, even if it was a struggle. I think it's going to be a much smoother experience this year for the Alabama offense. And while still being listed as a preseason All-SEC player is not necessarily disrespect, I think the guy who finished 6th in the Heisman Trophy voting this year will find himself on that first or second team All-SEC by the end of the year. Now, the next 2, really 3 names on here, were not even listed. Were not even selected. Now, they were listed in my poll. They were listed as far as what I was able to do, but they were not even listed on the teams. They were not reflected on the teams. Jam Miller. You saw Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes did get selected. I believe it was second team. Let me double check. Control F. No, he was third team. Second team, first team, third team. Yeah, he was listed. Justice Haynes was listed on the third team as well. Perfect. Justice Haynes was selected on the third team as well. So Justice did get honored. You're going to have, we've talked about it, a kind of a three-headed monster in the Alabama running back room. But I think that three-headed monster, while we are all excited about Justice Haynes, and rightfully so, I think that three-headed monster absolutely is going to start with Jam Miller, at least at the beginning of the year. And I think that his influence on the Alabama running back room is not really going to wane at all. I think Justice Haynes is going to have a nice little role and a really big role. But I think that no matter how strong Justice Haynes is and Richard Young is as the two kind of sophomore running backs, Jam Miller, he's not going to be denied. He's not going to be disrespected. I think that Jam Miller should have been listed at least on the third team. Now, you got a lot of good running backs in the SEC. You look through who was selected. Jarquez Hunter was on the first team. Trevor Etienne at Georgia was on the first team. You had a tie on the second team. Raheem Sanders, C.J. Baxter, and Montrell Johnson. C.J. Baxter and Montrell Johnson both tied on the second team. So, when you're playing this game, you have to bump someone out. Yeah, and really, who would you bump out? I don't want to disrespect any of these guys, but I think that you should have, could have, and should have found a role, found a spot for Jam Miller. Also on the third team with Justice Haynes was Ulysses Bentley out of Ole Miss. Yeah, the next two guys, wide receivers. Alabama had no wide receivers selected. And if you've listened to this show for any length of time this summer, you know that I love me some Jeremy Bernard. If you only tuned into today and you heard my question with Malachi Moore, I am a big fan of Jeremy Bernard. I think he's going to bring something to this Alabama wide receiver room that has not been there since the John Mechie and Jamison Williams years. Speaking of John Mechie, Malachi Moore compared Jeremy Bernard. He said, I see a lot of John Mechie in him. And so I think Jeremy Bernard, while he was not selected, will end up finding his way onto the first or second team all SEC by the end of the year. And same with Kendrick Law. Now, Kendrick Law is going to be used in a bit more of a gadgety way, I think. He's going to be taking a lot of speed sweeps. He's going to be utilized out of the backfield a lot. I still think he's going to be used pretty traditionally as a wide receiver as well. And we all love Kendrick Law and his athleticism and his attitude and his physicality. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Kendrick Law will do. But I wrote down not a single Alabama wide receiver was selected on the preseason polls. Did I select? What did I end up doing with my ballot as far as wide receiver go as we're doing this? Place kicker, punter, nope. We're looking for not defensive line, not that. We're looking for, that's what I want to see. Wide receivers. Okay, so you only were allowed to pick 4. And that's probably why Jeremy Bernard and Kendrick Law did not make it, because even on mine, I put Luther Burton III. Like, that's the obvious number one choice. If you didn't put Luther Burton III as number 1, then you need to question yourself. I put Luther Burton III as first. Sorry, Alabama fans, but I put Isaiah Bond number 2. I put Dominic Lovick out of Georgia number 3, and I put Kyron Lacey out of LSU number 4. So even I myself did not find a place for Jeremy Bernard or Kendrick Law. So we're hopeful that, or I'm expecting at least Jeremy Bernard to have a very, very strong season and represent himself well. The last note on this kind of topic is we're talking SEC preseason polls. We're talking first, second, and third team just a little bit, and who was most jobbed from the Alabama side. The last note that I have involves offensive linemen. And obviously, I think that they got things right with the center position, even though Parker Brailsford is very, very highly thought of. Cooper Mays out of Tennessee got the first team. Parker Brailsford was second, and Jake Majors out of Texas was third team. I have no issue with that. My main issue as it pertains to Alabama centers around Caden Proctor and Jaden Roberts. I think Caden Proctor is going to have a much better second year here at Alabama as a sophomore, but I'm much more excited about Jaden Roberts playing, right guard. I am much more excited about Jaden Roberts, and Jaden Roberts was listed on the third team, while Caden Proctor was listed on the second team. And if you looked at the way that they pretty much organized this, oh my gosh, where's my tab? There we go. Offensive guard and tackle. I left Caden Proctor off my list. And I didn't want to be a total homer, but I had Tyler Booker 1, and I had Jaden Roberts 4. So I left Caden Proctor entirely off my list. I ended up putting Tyler Booker 1. I put Tate Ratledge 2, Henry Jones 3, Jaden Roberts 4, Will Campbell out of LSU 5, Dylan Fairchild, Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas 7, and Armand Nimbu out of Missouri as number 8. Look, you can't. I didn't want to put Alabama all over my bracket or all over my poll. Obviously, I wanted to honor the guys that I thought were deserving, but from a standpoint of kind of who's left out, I thought Jaden Roberts should have gotten second team over Caden Proctor. Before we keep going and turn it to Kenyon Drake and then finish it up with our conversation with Tyler Booker, I want to tell you about my friend Derek Daniel. Derek Daniel over here on Highway 69 North, he will get you right for all your insurance needs. Call him at 205-758-3391. Derek Daniels State Farm. You need quality home, life, and auto insurance needs. You need an umbrella policy to really go over the top for your home insurance. You know, if you've got a dog like I do, Abby, you want to make sure that your home insurance policy is really up to date because, well, Abby's a sweetheart, and I absolutely love her. Sometimes the pit bull comes out, and if she bites the wrong person, I need to make sure my home insurance is up to date. Absolutely. And really is up to the right coverage for my dog. You want to make sure you have boaters and an RV insurance. If you want to get that last trip in before the end of the summer, look, you need to do that right now because football season's coming. Make sure that you get your insurance needs taken care of from Derek Daniels State Farm. You can call him at 205-758-3391. We've been harping on the renter's insurance because it's about to be the moving season right here in Tuscaloosa. Your students are moving from apartment to apartment to apartment, back and forth across town. Their new apartment needs renter's insurance. You can visit him today at 4604 Highway 69 North in Northport, Alabama, 35473. Just a mile off of McFarland Boulevard, just past the Tiger Rock Martial Arts. Call him. Tell him that Joe Gaither sent you. 205-758-3391. Let's finish this up before we hear from Tyler Booker by talking about Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake, if you haven't seen it yet, has announced his retirement from the NFL. 8 seasons he toted the rock in the NFL. And let's pull his numbers just as we're doing this. Kenyon Drake, and really, he's got several major highlights that will go down in history. Now, obviously, from the Alabama perspective, this is an Alabama show. We want to talk about 2 different highlights. He's got the touchdown catch against, I believe, the Florida Gators, where he's running a slant and go from the outside, and Lane Kiffin is shooting his head. One of the first times that Lane Kiffin's shooting his hands up from the sidelines, calling a touchdown. That will always stick out in my memory. But most importantly, man, the kickoff return against the Clemson Tigers. What a game. Really, what a series it was against the Clemson Tigers in those national championship games against Deshaun Watson. And for Kenyon Drake to take the kickoff in a moment that Alabama really, really needed a spark. You needed something, and Kenyon Drake took it from left side deep in the end zone, around, worked his way all the way to the right side, diving into on the pylon. Kenyon Drake basically really cementing and keeping Alabama just ahead of the Clemson Tigers in that moment. Just a really, really impressive play, and one that will always stick with me. Now, from the NFL side, look, you may not be a Miami Dolphins fan. You may not even be an NFL fan. But he is a part of one of the most really historic plays in the last 20 years in the NFL. He's a part of the Miami Miracle. He's a huge part of it because he cashes it off. He finishes the Miami Miracle with a touchdown. Obviously, a lot of people have the image of him running around Rob Gronkowski. Bill Belichick putting a handful of offensive players in on defense because I think that the Patriots thought that it was going to be Hail Mary time, but instead Ryan Tannehill, hit a 15, 20-yard dig pattern, and it was lateral back and forth right there with Miami, and the ball found its way into Kenyon Drake's hands. He weaves in and out of the defense, running around Rob Gronkowski, leaving him in the dust and giving the Miami Dolphins obviously, it didn't work out for the Dolphins as far as major moves deep into the postseason, but it was a huge win for their fan base because the Patriots have basically been their nemesis forever and ever and ever. And the Bill Belichick era of the Patriots really, really saw the Miami Dolphins doing a lot of losing. So to beat the Bill Belichick era New England Patriots on a bunch of laterals and have Kenyon Drake cash in the touchdown just went down in a lot of history and really will always live. I got a couple Miami Dolphins fans buddies who sometimes watch the show and listen to the show. Shout out Richie and Timmy. You guys will always remember Kenyon Drake as he cashed in the Miami Miracle. 8 years in the NFL. He played 104 games, started 44 of them. Never, was only the feature back a couple of different times. He had some times in Arizona as well as the feature back, but mostly a secondary running back, just like he was at Alabama. 3,800 rushing yards, 33 touchdowns in the NFL. I mean, that's impressive. How many touchdowns did you score in the NFL? 0 for myself. He has, where's my receiving yards? Receiving 218 total receptions for 1,655 yards and 8 more touchdowns from the air. So Kenyon Drake, we wish you a happy retirement. 8 years in the NFL. 4 years here at the capstone. We appreciate everything you've done, giving us great memories, and go enjoy your retirement. Let's finish the show out by hearing from Tyler Booker. We're going to play a short little interview from Tyler Booker, and then we're going to set up the weekend. I think we're going to probably do a Saturday episode to make up for one of the days that we were traveling on Monday and on Thursday. And so we will round it on out after our interview with Alabama offensive lineman Tyler Booker. I'm Joe Gaither right here with Tyler Booker, Alabama offensive lineman at SEC Media Days. Tyler, a lot's been made this offseason about Alabama and its offensive line and its weight. What went into you and your weight cut this offseason?
I wanted to be able to play at a high level for a long time. And when you look in the NFL, there aren't a lot of guys who are 350. So I just had to come down on my weight to be able to be the best version of myself for this team.
What was the toughest part about making that weight cut? Any dietary restrictions that you missed big time?
I'm not really going to say there was a tough part, because I knew at the end, my end goal would make me a better football player. So that's what I focused on the whole time.
You're going into year number 2 with left tackle Hayden Proctor to your left. What's going to be the advantage or the expectation with the second year of that partnership?
The advantage of having the second year of that partnership is continuity. Like, Hayden knows what I'm thinking. I know what he's thinking. So we're going to be able to go out there and make calls without even having to say them. Like, I'll be able to give him a look, and he'll know what the call is and what we're going to do on that specific play. So just being able to have that relationship, and then certain blocks fit better because we've done them so much with one another. I'm just very excited to go into year 2 with them.
Last one, who's the defensive lineman on the Alabama side that Alabama fans should be watching out for?
I'm going to give you 2, Tim Keenan and Tim Smith. Those guys are working on getting better every day. They're committed to their craft, and they're both a piece of work.
That's awesome. Tyler Booker, Alabama offensive lineman at SEC Media Days.
Yes, sir. Roll Tide.
That was our time with Tyler Booker, and I know it was very short, and I apologize for that, but we got everything that we could in the time that was allotted. He was basically going, just like Malachi Moore, person to person to person to person. Everybody wanted to talk to Tyler Booker. I'm excited about the weight cut. I think the guys are going to be much more mobile this year. I was looking, hopefully, for a defensive lineman not named Tim Smith and Tim Keenan, because I love what Tim Keenan does, and I know that Tim Smith has worked his tail off to get to this point. I'm very curious to see this defensive line rotation. And so we will see what ends up happening with the Alabama offensive and defensive line in, 43 more days until Alabama kicks it off against Western Kentucky. We'll get out of here for the day by telling you once more about Purple Turtle Roofing. You can find them today. They're the most reliable roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Purple Turtle Roofing is the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635. Visit them online at www.roofturtle.com. They're going to send out one of their qualified employees, and they'll make sure that your roof is ready for all of life's storms. We thank Purple Turtle Roofing. We thank Derek Daniels, State Farm, for sponsoring the show. We thank you guys so much for watching the show on Bama Central's YouTube channel, on my own social media channels, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Joe Gaither 6. And we appreciate you so much for listening to us each and every day on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Download, rate, review, subscribe to the show, send it to a friend as we are inching closer to the start of the 2024 college football season. That's going to do it for myself today. I believe we'll bring you an episode tomorrow to kind of make up for one that we missed, and we'll play another one of these great interviews that we had this past week in Dallas at SEC Media Days. For the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com, this has been the Alabama Crimson Tide on SI.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.